It's extraordinary.
Another opponent.
Whoa!
What a head kick.
It's
all over. A spectacular finish, just like that.
That's a bang. Done.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Corner. I believe this is now episode 10. And in this episode, we're going to be breaking down and looking back at this past weekend's UFC fight card from Louisville, Kentucky. Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov. And then we'll take a little look ahead at this week's fight card. Alex Perez taking on Tatsuro Taira from the UFC Apex. So without any further ado, let's get into this week's episode. In the main event, it was Jared Cannonier taking on Nassourdine Imavov, and Cannonier landing some punches early on without a real feeling out process, and gets an early takedown up against the cage, looking for the back of Imavov, who does get back to his feet, but eats an elbow on the break from Cannonier, who follows up with some good leg kicks, along with a nice jab and straight rights. But Imavov catches a kick and returns a right hand that takes Cannonier to the canvas, who gets right up though into a clinch battle where he does control the remainder of the round. In the second, there's some hard jabs from Imavov with a nice combination, but answered right back from Cannonier, who then gets in on a single leg against the cage after throwing Imavov off of him. Imavov does land some good knees to the body from the clinch, and when they break, Imavov lands some real hard shots to the head of Cannonier, and he continued to land good shots before he initiated another clinch, but Imavov lands good shots on the break again, and it's most likely one round apiece right now. In the third, it was a good right hand to the start from Cannonier, but it's Imavov who initiates the clinch, getting a body lock and taking Cannonier down. Imavov doing a good job of countering the low kicks from Cannonier, who lands some good shots before initiating another clinch, where they kind of stalled out for the remainder of the round. And this was a close one again. But in the fourth, there was two big looping left hands from Cannonier at the start of the round, but Imavov stumbled and hurt Cannonier, who tried to get away, but Imavov followed him, landed another right hand and a knee to the head, and then to the body before landing several more punches, and Jason Herzog steps in and stops the fight. Cannonier immediately protests the stoppage, and to be fair, he does look very with it, and this probably could have gone on a little longer, and it's Imavov who takes this one with a TKO in round number 4. And maybe it's possible that this could set up the rematch with Sean Strickland. In the co-main event, we had Dustin Jacoby taking on Dominick Reyes. Good kicks from Reyes to start the fight to the body and the legs, and Jacoby lands a hard leg kick of his own and a left with a nice right hand behind it. And then went in on Reyes against the cage with a combination, but got countered by a Reyes left hand that really hurt Jacoby and had him very wobbly, and Reyes followed up with a straight left followed by a knee and an onslaught of right hands and a combination of lefts and rights to Jacoby, and he was out on his feet, and the ref stepped in to stop the fight, and in doing so, Jacoby fell face down as the strikes were no longer keeping him up. And it's a TKO finish in round number 1 for Dominick Reyes. And this had to feel good for Reyes coming back after numerous setbacks and those back-to-back KO losses. Yeah, had to feel good to get back on the winning ways. And will be interesting to see who the UFC pairs him up with next. Moving down the card, it was Ricky Turcios taking on Raul Rosas Jr. Turcios with no intentions of touching gloves and starting throwing kicks right away, but Rosas catches a body kick and gets the fight to the ground, where Rosas was able to control Turcios, occasionally looking for ground and pound, but mainly to advance his position. But Turcios did manage to end up on top when Rosas went for the back take, and ended up getting his back taken by Turcios, who immediately looked for the choke, locking it in over the jaw, which you can still get a tap from, just the same as being under the chin. It just depends on the squeeze. But Rosas did a great job reversing and taking the back near the end of the round himself. And in the second, Rosas with a nice knee to the head at the start of the round, right into a double leg, getting the fight to the ground, taking the back, locking up a body triangle, and looking for the choke. Eventually locking it up over the jaw, and it looked really bad from here from Turcios. But when Rosas got the arm under the chin, it was all but over, and Turcios was forced to tap. In a really great performance by Rosas Jr., and the hype will continue behind this very young man who gets a submission victory in round number 2. Brunno Ferreira taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Both landing real good kicks early before exchanging punches in close, and Stoltzfus is able to get the fight to the ground. And Stoltzfus transitions to the back, but slides off and goes into a knee bar. But Ferreira frees his knee and gets back to his feet, where they exchange strikes. And Stoltzfus lands another right hand and a spinning back kick to the body before Ferreira lands an overhand right and a spinning elbow, followed up by another right hand, sending Stoltzfus backwards, who tries to fire back, but he gets hit with another right hand and a left. And another right nearly drops Stoltzfus, who shoots for the takedown but doesn't get it, and Ferreira continues with a knee and a left hand before Stoltzfus lands an elbow, but Ferreira keeps coming forward, ripping to the body, stepping back and landing a beautiful spinning down elbow right to the face of Stoltzfus, dropping him to the canvas. And even though he did get up very quickly, the ref did the right thing in calling it, as he was done and was just too tough for his own good. And that's a TKO victory for Brunno Ferreira, round 1. What a performance. That's going to be up there with knockouts of the year for sure. Zachary Reese and Julian Marquez. Marquez lands a nice outside leg kick, and Reese followed up with a body kick, and then a left hand and a right uppercut that sends Marquez crashing to the canvas. And Reese jumps on him and follows up with some hammer fists. And Big Dan calls the fight at the 20-second mark of the first round. Really impressive from Reese against a fairly tough opponent in Julian Marquez. And it'll be another one to watch out for in the future if he can continue putting in performances like this one. And kicking off the main card, it was Punahele Soriano taking on Miguel Baeza. Baeza starting strong with nice side kicks to the body early in the round before forcing a clinch position, but Soriano uses it to get in on a double leg and get the fight to the ground, looking for some ground and pound. But Baeza inverts and attacks with a heel hook, and Soriano defends by punching Baeza repeatedly in the face. And Baeza ditches the heel hook and looks for a toe hold, then transitioning into a knee bar in a really great little grappling sequence. But Soriano defends and gets Baeza to turtle and starts landing heavy blows as Baeza tries to work back to his feet, and Soriano secures another takedown at the end of the round. In the second, it was Soriano getting another takedown early in the round. Baeza did try to roll and look for a submission, but Soriano did end up on top. Baeza then got deep on an armbar, and Soriano landed some knees to the body to try to get Baeza to release, but he stayed with it but was not able to find the finish. And Soriano answered back with more ground and pound before getting onto the back of Baeza and controlling him, continuing with the ground and pound and a knee to the body from the ground. In the third, it was a hard body kick from Soriano to start and an easy takedown, and continued with the ground and pound. Nothing huge, but there were a lot of shots that were landed on Baeza, and this fight was close to being stopped a few times, but it did go to a unanimous decision victory for Punahele Soriano. In the featured prelim, it was Thiago Moisés taking on Ľudovít Klein. A head kick from Klein early in the opening minute, and Moisés times a beautiful takedown entry, but Klein stuffs it hard and forces the fight to continue on the feet, with Klein attacking to the body and getting his range figured out before hurting Moisés with a straight left that made Moisés lose all balance and stumble to the ground, where Klein jumped on him looking for the finish, but Moisés survives to the second. And there, both landing good shots in the opening minute, exchanging leg kicks, and Klein with a nice 1-2 before Moisés landed a very clean head kick that Klein seemed to have no trouble with. And both still having good moments in this round, with Moisés still not able to complete a takedown though. And it's Klein who ends up shooting the double leg and getting Moisés to the ground, who quickly starts looking for a knee bar, and it looks tight, but Klein is able to defend and free his leg and end up on top to finish the round. In the third, Moisés again with a really good entry to a takedown, but is not able to get the fight to the ground. And in the open, Klein continues to land good clean strikes and another great stuff of a takedown. And again, Moisés getting so close to completing the takedown, but Klein just won't stop moving and gets back to the feet, where Klein again lands a 1-2 and followed that up with a knee right to the body, dropping Moisés, and Klein jumps on top looking for strikes to end the fight. But the fight continues with Moisés on his back looking to survive the rest of the round, and it went to a unanimous decision victory for Ľudovít Klein. We had Carlos Prates taking on Charles Radtke. Radtke looking to get a takedown early, which is stuffed by Prates, and Radtke just misses with a crazy haymaker, and Prates defends another takedown, and a hard leg kick from Prates, who is having more success on the feet than Radtke, landing more hard leg kicks, and then landed a stiff left hand that stunned Radtke against the fence, before crumbling Radtke with a knee to the body, sending him crashing to the canvas, and Prates knew it was over with no follow-up needed, and walks away with a beautiful body shot KO. And that's 2-0 in the UFC, 3-0 if you include his bout in the Contender Series, all by knockout. Definitely someone to keep tabs on going forward. And we had Jesse Butler taking on Brad Katona. Lots of kicks from Butler and a nice right hand to start the round, but Katona caught one of the kicks to the body and returned a right hand that sent Butler to the canvas, with Katona looking to pass and land shots before eventually moving to half guard. Butler does retain full guard, but is not able to do anything with it, and Katona continues to look for strikes till the bell. In the second, a nice right hand from Butler to start the round, but again, he throws a kick to the body that is caught by Katona, who easily gets the fight to the ground, landing a nasty elbow, cutting Butler, and Katona just staying heavy on top, landing elbows and punches. Butler did get back to his feet at the end of the round, but was not able to break free from Katona. And in the third, Butler taking his coach's advice and not using kicks, looking just to box with Katona, and has some good success in the opening minute. Butler continuing to have success on the feet, switching stances and landing his lead right hand, but Katona landing good shots of his own with an overhand right and punches in combination, when Butler goes for a high kick and slips to his back, and Katona pounces on him, passing to half guard and landing some nice ground and pound with elbows and punches before the end of the round. And this was an easy unanimous decision victory for Brad Katona. Even got a 30-26 in there from one of the judges and 30-27 from the other two. In the women's flyweight division, we had Montana De La Rosa taking on Andrea Lee. Both opening up with striking early before De La Rosa went to the body lock, getting the takedown right into mount. But Lee swept De La Rosa, and after defending a triangle, Lee got the fight back to the feet and dropped De La Rosa with a little backhand shot. But De La Rosa quickly recovers and goes for the takedown, getting Lee to the ground and taking her back, looking for a choke. but she is under Lee's arm, so it would be next to impossible to finish from this position. And Lee is able to escape, getting De La Rosa to turtle position, where Lee looked for hammer fists and punches. When De La Rosa was able to work back to her feet, she got in a nice knee to the face. And De La Rosa caught one of Lee's body kicks and fired back some good shots upstairs before exchanging clinch strikes to the end of the round. In the second, De La Rosa having much more success on the feet, landing a nice variety of strikes like uppercuts and elbows, and this was a clear round for De La Rosa. And in the third, Lee landing a nice combination at the beginning of the round while both are looking for strikes. De La Rosa shoots a duck under and gets to the back of Lee, getting the fight to the ground, but without full control and not having both hooks, where Lee eventually got flattened out. And it looked very bad for a minute, but she was able to work back to her knees and then eventually get back to her feet and rolled through when De La Rosa got a bit high in the back and ended up being able to get the fight back to the feet. With under a minute left, both looking to put a stamp on this round, and it ends with De La Rosa throwing Lee to the ground into side control and looking for hammer fists. And this was another tight one on the judges' scorecards, 29-28 times 2 for De La Rosa and 29-28 times 1 for Lee. In the men's bantamweight division, we had Daniel Marcos taking on John Castaneda. Good knee and some shots upstairs from Marcos, and he dropped Castaneda to a knee with a right hand and followed that up with some shots against the cage. And Marcos having really good success, stunning Castaneda again near the end of the round and followed up with more strikes against the cage. In the second, Castaneda attacking with kicks early before looking for a takedown against the cage, but Marcos defends really well and just missed with a knee, but followed up with some nice strikes upstairs and defended another takedown from Castaneda, pushing the fight up against the cage and landing some good knees in close. Castaneda landing some good left hands himself before punching into distance, getting to the double, and slams Marcos to the ground, but he is unable to get control of Marcos, who ends up back on his feet and lands a few strikes to Castaneda, who shoots another takedown that's defended by Marcos, and they end the rest of the round on the feet. In the third, both exchanging kicks, but the ref stops the fight for an apparent low blow on Castaneda, but the ref review official says it's clean and they start back up again, only for Castaneda to again complain of a low blow, and this looked clean in real time to me and on the replay, so I think it was right that the ref let this one go. And Marcos continues to attack the body and the head of Castaneda, who is having brief moments of success, but it is Marcos who is leading this one, and he lands a right hand that briefly stuns Castaneda, who fires back with a left only to be dropped by another Marcos right hand. Marcos lets Castaneda up and continues to attack the head and the body, but Castaneda landed a head kick right off the forehead that really hurt Marcos, but Castaneda was not able to capitalize, and Marcos survives a very late scare to remain undefeated and takes a unanimous decision victory, 30-27 on all judges' scorecards. Next on the prelims, we had Eduardo Moira and Denise Gomes. Moira shoots an early takedown, but Gomes uses a guillotine to defend, and it is really tight. But Moira stayed tough and eventually popped her head out. Moira was eventually able to get to the back and drag the fight to the ground, but Gomes uses a beautiful switch to get the fight back to the feet and put Moira's back against the cage. Gomes then went for a very sloppy takedown, and Moira nearly ended up on top, but she did land a nice knee to Gomes when she was working back to her feet. Gomes landed a nice uppercut, and Moira charged in on a double leg and gets the fight to the ground, looking for some ground and pound, but Gomes did a really great job of wrestling up to get Moira on her back, but she is easily able to kick Gomes off of her before the end of the round. In the second, Moira grabs a hold of a single leg, gets to the back, and drags the fight to the canvas, but Gomes ends up on top and calls Moira back to the feet, where Gomes again showed good takedown defense and the ability to get back to her feet. pushing Moira against the cage, looking for strikes, and Gomes stuff another takedown from Moira. In the third, a nice kick and a right hand from Moira to start the round, and she goes in on another single leg that Gomes defends with a ninja choke. And it did look tight, but Moira forced the fight to the ground, which made Gomes release the choke. But Gomes again is able to get back to her feet, and again shows great takedown defense on another shot. And when Moira does get the fight to the ground, Gomes is able to get right back to her feet again, using the switch to finish the round on the feet. And it was another close decision on the judges' scorecards. 30-27 and 29-28 for one judge for Gomes, and 30-27 by the other judge for Moira. So it's Gomes taking home the split decision. In the men's bantamweight division, we had Taylor Lapalus taking on Cody Stamann. Lapalus landing a good knee in the clinch, and Stamann was able to get in deep on a body lock, but unable to complete the takedown, and they exchange knees on the fence, and Lapalus lands a nice kick to the body, but it allows Stamann to again look for a takedown, which is defended by Lapalus, and they exchange knees again against the fence, with both landing strikes on the break, and a nice knee to the body from Lapalus, and another near the end of the round. In the second, both landing good strikes against the cage in the clinch, and another good kick from Lapalus, and Stamann looks for a takedown off of it, but he is stuffed, and a nasty low blow from Lapalus stops the action. Stamann trying to get on the inside, but he's just a little too short, and gets another takedown stuff before eating a few more shots at the end of the round. In the third, Stamann comes out swinging and lands a nice inside leg kick that drops Lapalus briefly, and Stamann doing a much better job at the start of this round. And Lapalus did land a nice back elbow to the nose of Stamann, but Stamann is finally able to complete a takedown and lands right into side control, moving into a crucifix and looking for elbows. But Lapalus, with his toes in the cage, is able to work his way out and back to the feet, where he continues to land to the head and to the body of Stamann, who again is just coming up short in his offense, with another nice knee up the middle by Lapalus at the end of the round. And another easy unanimous decision victory, 30-27 times 3 for Taylor Lapalus. Kicking off the card, it was the women's strawweight division with Puja Tomar taking on Rayan dos Santos. Tomar is the first Indian female to compete in the UFC, and she starts with some good kicks and strikes upstairs and some body kicks as well. And Dos Santos does a good job of cutting off the cage and lands some good shots and made the round much closer in the end. In the second, it's more kicks from Tomar, lots of kicks this round from both, and a close round again. In the third, nice side kick from Tomar to start the round, and Dos Santos was able to get in on a body lock and looked to sweep the leg, but Tomar defended well and lands a hard side kick to the body of Dos Santos, sending her back several feet before she briefly hit the canvas. And then they really started going at it. Tomar screaming in the face of Dos Santos, and both really going for it before the end of the round until the bell. And this was a split decision victory for Puja Tomar, 30-27 and 29-28 by the judges, and the other judge had it 30-27 for Dos Santos. As for the bonuses for this fight night, $50,000 went to Raul Rosas Jr., Zachary Reese, Brunno Ferreira, and Carlos Prates, all with stunning finishes of their opponents, and all well deserving of the $50,000. And now on to a little bit of news. I'm sure everyone is already well aware that the main event for UFC 303 has now been changed. It was slated to be the return of the notorious Conor McGregor to take on Michael Chandler. However, that has now been scrapped, and we are getting the rematch of Alex Pereira and Yuri Prochazka. The co-main event has also been changed as well. We're going to be seeing Brian Ortega taking on Diego Lopez, which is sure to be another fantastic fight. And in other fight news, Khamzat Chimaev is unable to make his scheduled main event bout against Robert Whittaker in Saudi Arabia due to an illness. Ikram Aliskerov has stepped in to replace him on fairly short notice. He did have a fight already booked the week previous, this week, but some pretty big changes to the upcoming fight schedule. Taking a look ahead at this weekend's fight card, we had Alex Perez taking on Tatsuro Taira, and we will have a full breakdown of this card coming up this week as well. And that does it for another episode of the Fight Corner. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in and for the support. It really does mean a lot, and I do hope to start doing these videos a lot more regularly now, one for every fight card, while still working on some other pet projects as well in the background. So again, please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It all goes a long way, and it all really does mean a lot. So again, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you again next week for a breakdown of this week's fight card, Alex Perez and Tatsuro Taira. Peace.